Howdy everyone, it's Sam. Welcome back to Wobble Enjoy Sports. If you're new around here, hope I can get you to consider to like the content and subscribe to the channel. But if you're a regular around these here parts, thank you very much for the continuous support. Zero distractions. The race to the finals begins this weekend. Everyone is all done and dusted with State of Origin. Let's get stuck into the full round of fixtures for the ASI Tip Show this weekend. Round 21 starts on Friday Night Football. There are two games, and match number one starts from Mount Smart Stadium, Go Media Stadium. The Warriors host West Tigers. Warriors are $1.25. The Tigers are $4. I don't know about you, but I feel like there's a sniff in the air about this game. I feel like this one could have an upset. I'm not sure, but going into the team list now, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck will start at fullback. DWZ and Kossi are the wingers. The centres, Ali Leotawa and Mawala Graham Taufa are the centres, I believe. Graham Taufa is making his debut, but in any event, congratulations to the young man. And Chanel Harris-Tavita and Tamare Martin are the halves combination. The forward pack, Mitch Barnett is the prop, Niakure, Capewell and Walker. The back row, interchange reads Lussick, Ford, Tavanga and Halasima. And Sean Johnson has not been named on the reserves, so he is another week at least away. Going into the West Tigers outfit, and Buller, Luke Laulalili and Charlie Staines are the wingers. Fatape and Toa, Stafford Toa, they are the two centres. Galvin and Fainu are the halves combination. The youngest halves combination in the game right now, surely. One of the youngest of all time. The forwards, Utuekamanu, Pole and Coruscant. Porter, Samuel Fainu and Isaiah Papali'i are the back row. Papali'i returns to the Tigers this weekend. And the interchange reads De Silva, Seyfarth, Sione Fainu and Alex Tawal. It's got an upset. $4 I think is pretty big on the West Tigers. I know they've dished up some large scores defensively, but I don't know, man. I just have a bit of a sniff about the Tigers, but I'll play it safe and go the Warriors. Warriors haven't been good at home this year. That must be remembered. But I'll go Warriors 1-12. But watch out. Game number 2 on Friday night emanates from Combank Stadium. Parramatta host Melbourne. Eels are $5.75. Storm are $1.14. For the team list for the Parramatta Eels, looks like Lorenzo Mulatalo and Charlie Geimer are out. Jack Tungo, Blaze Talangi, Will Penaseni and Sean Russell. The back line alongside Clint Gutherson and Dylan Brown and Dejan Arce, the halves combination. The forward pack, Wiramu Greg starts. Junior Paulo is out for the next month at least with an injury. Lane, Cartwright and Madison, the back row. The interchange reads Lussick, Offahengawi, Moretti and Makatoa. Shifting into the Melbourne Storm outfit, and Joe Chan is out. He has been suspended. That brings in, I think he might be making his debut. If not, he made it last weekend. Lazarus Va'alepu in jersey 17. Christian Welch and Nelson Asofa-Solomona return after a week out last weekend. And then the back line. So Warbrick, Howarth, Meaney and Anderson, Wishart and Jerome Hughes. The halves combination, so Munster still out with a groin problem, unfortunately. This has 13 plus written all over it. Sorry, Parramatta fans, I think Storm are going to win very handsomely this Friday night. Super Saturday is a big one. These three games all have huge finals implications, starting with a great game, Brisbane versus Canterbury Bankstown at Suncorp Stadium. The Broncos are $1.38 favourites. Bulldogs are $3.14. And this is the second game in a row where the Dogs will be playing up in Queensland, and the Brisbane Broncos return back home after a successful trip down to Newcastle. For the Brisbane Broncos now, their 1-7 is full strength. It is probably the first time since the first month of the season that they are lining up at full strength, that entire back line. And then going into the forward pack, that looks to be full strength, unless if I'm missing someone. Jensen, Haas starts. Hetherington, Ricky and Carrigan, the back row. Sapia-Kura out, obviously. Moser, Smoothie, Willison and Tapa'u, the interchange bench. And then shifting into the Bulldogs now. So Tracy, Carraz and Wilson, Sherry and Crichton, Burton and Sexton. The interchange, Harry Hayes keeps his spot after a successful debut last weekend. So Chris Patolo is the omission for the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs. In comes Lipoi Hopoi in jersey 15. Dogs, they didn't disgrace themselves, obviously, but they just didn't have. Sometimes their attack is on, sometimes it's off, and it wasn't quite on last weekend. All of their tries came off of kicks, and while they are one of the best defensive teams in the competition, this Brisbane Broncos outfit are finally full strength just about, minus a Piakura, but that backline primarily is full strength. And a Saturday afternoon game at Suncorp, I know Dogs could defend themselves stoutly and frustrate the Broncos, but I think Brisbane are primed for a good win here. I'm going to say 13 plus, but nothing extravagant. I'll say something to the tune of like a 28 points to 12 sort of a scoreline for Brisbane this weekend. The second game of Super Saturday is a rivalry game, in my opinion. Even though the Sharks have dominated for the past 10 years, this is still a rivalry game. Cowboys versus Sharks. And surprisingly, in my opinion, the Cowboys are the favourites in this game. They are $1.80. The Sharks are $2.05 outsiders. That's, with all due respect, it's a bit surprising that the Cowboys are the favourites. Going into the team list now for the North Queensland Cowboys, and they are completely unchanged. However, must be noted that Murray Taulagi has been named on the reserves in jersey 21, but such is Jackson Purdue's prowess at the moment. Purdue, every time he has donned a Cowboys jersey and played, he has looked exceptional. Defensively, attacking wise, he's looked fantastic. Now going into Cronulla, fullback Liam Ison, he is making his first grade debut, so congratulations to him. I know that the Rugby League Outlaws are pretty good on him, so let's see how he goes this weekend. And Atkinson and Trindle remain as the halves pairing. Forward pack now, Hunt, Korfusi and Brayley, Nikora, Wilton and McInnes. The back row, Talakai, Hazelton, Rudolph and Hamlin, ULA. The interchange, and just quietly Jack Williams has been named on the reserves list as well. The Sharkies, both of their buys since the matches that they've had when they've come off the buys, they've started slow. They've looked susceptible to losses. North Queensland last weekend, they did come off the bye and they started well, but they need to fix up just the errors in discipline. Because defensively they started like a house on fire last weekend against the Bulldogs, and it was a penalty on the second last tackle that got the Bulldogs out of trouble inside the first set. So this is a huge game. Cowboys, technically they can afford 2 losses maximum. They can afford to drop 2, but you obviously don't want to, because top 4 is there for North Queensland Cowboys, and Cronulla Sutherland Sharks, man, they're a very unpredictable team, and they did absolutely bash North Queensland earlier this season, and they don't fear QCB Stadium. The time's got to come where the Cowboys get a regular season win against the Sharks. They've got to do it this weekend, just for another level of confidence. And, obviously I'll be backing them, but this is going to be a huge game, man. Come on, you Cowboys. This should be a beauty. And the main event of Super Saturday, and arguably the game of the weekend, Easts versus Manly at Allianz Stadium. Roosters are $1.43. Sea Eagles are $2.85. Going into the team list now for the Sydney Roosters, Javier Hargreaves is still out with suspension. Tupanua remains in the centres. And going into the Sea Eagles now, because that's pretty much unchanged for the Roosters there. Going into the Sea Eagles now, it looks like the backline, Ben Trbojevic is going to be playing centre this Saturday night. The forward pack is improved. Paseka, Simpkin and Aloye start. Waddell, Lawton and Jake Trbojevic, the starting back row. And the interchange reads Chan Kumtong, Bullimore, Sipley and Nathan Brown. The Sea Eagles last weekend, they had a bit of a scare against the Gold Coast, but yeah, they're a good team. They're a good team. They have bashed two teams in a row now that are well below their best, and they did pip the Cowboys, admittedly, a few weeks ago, which still sucks. And then the Roosters last weekend. I'll say this. I fell victim to the hypnotisation that the media have put onto the Roosters. The past month or so, they've beaten a half-strength Bulldogs, Parramatta, St. George Illawarra, and there's another team in there as well that I can't quite remember. I think it was actually the West Tigers. And everyone's saying that, yes, their attack's on and all that jazz, but they are the four teams that they beat over the past month. Cowboys at half strength beat this mob. And last weekend, they travelled down to Melbourne and got punched right in the face. It sort of makes me think that they're frauds. And that early season form where they weren't convincing at all, I think is still there. I think this past month of footy, they've gotten a nice draw, and they went down to the Storm and got punched in the face. I know that Manu and Maria Hargreaves are not there, but I'm now off the train. I'm off the Roosters train. I was hypnotised by them, thinking that they might actually be a grand finalist in 2024, but when it comes to preliminary final this weekend, by the end of the season, and they've got to go up against either Melbourne in Melbourne or Penrith in Sydney, I don't think they stand a chance, honestly, because that was a pretty weak performance by the Roosters. So this game here, back to this game, Manly have got the attack to skittle the Roosters. Look, the Roosters also technically, they're a top 5 defensive unit, but I just don't trust it, man. I don't. That performance from them really pissed me off, to be honest with you. I'm going to tip the Roosters in this game. Manly are coming into the contest with a bit more form, but then again, they have bashed on the Knights and the Titans over the past fortnight, but did pip the Cowboys in Townsville, so you can't take that away from them. But I'm going to tip the Roosters here. I'm going to tip the Roosters, but I'm actually not all that confident about it. The Sunday games now, and the first match is from Wynn Stadium in Wollongong. Dragons versus Penrith. On Sportsbet, it is Penrith who are the favourites at $1.26. The Dragons are $3.90, and they're coming off the bye as well. So going into the team list now, Tuapolotu and Max Finge are one edge. The forward pack, Molo and DeBellin start. Raymond Fatala-Mariner, Sewer and Eisenhuth, the back row. The interchange reads Sele, Leilua, Couchman, and Ben Murdoch-Masila, with Blake Laurie and Jack Bird and Michaeli Ravalawa all on the reserves list for the Dragons. Meanwhile, for the Penrith Panthers, they're getting back to something like full strength. Brian To'o is returning. Dane Laurie is still the fullback. Dylan Edwards is out for the next 3 weeks, I think, with a small or minor PCL injury. Jerome Luai returns to the fold at the 5'8" position, and the back row sees Liam Martin and Isaiah Yeo start, and that pushes out Brad Schneider and Matt Eisenhuth to the reserves list. Penrith Panthers 13+. The second match on Sunday is from Suncorp Stadium. The Dolphins host the Gold Coast. Dolphins $1.50, Titans are $2.60. So Sportsbet are giving them a bit of a sniff here. But the Dolphins last weekend in Penrith were outstanding. The Dolphins lineup here, their 1-7 is unchanged. So too is their forward pack. And the interchange bench reads Kerr, Nichols, Stone, and Trey Fuller. And then for the Gold Coast Titans now, AJ Brimson is not to be named again. He's still out with injury. And I think maybe that's just about it. I think they've named an unchanged lineup as well. Have the Gold Coast Titans, Khalees Haas, Palacia, and Pahulu coming off the bench for the Titans. Gold Coast, they started extremely well inside that first 20 minutes against Manly, and we thought the Manly usual upset for the Titans is on here, but they fell away badly. Meanwhile, the Dolphins, that's got to be up there with their top 3, maybe top 5 performances in their short history so far, even though they did fall down to the Penrith Panthers and Golden Point. I think they paid the price for going one out that entire first set, their only set in Golden Point extra time. There was that opportunity Katoa could have had with about 5 minutes remaining to shoot from an angle 15 metres out, but I really think they were too basic in Golden Point by going one out every single time. They should have put on a bit more of a spread in that Golden Point period. I think they'll take an enormous amount of confidence out of that game, and I think they'll win this one 1-12 against the Titans. And the final game of round 21 is from GIO Stadium, and it's a personal affair. Not a rivalry game, but it's a bit personal. Jack Whiten returns to Canberra to take on his old team, the Raiders. The Raiders versus South Sydney Rabbitohs, and on Sportsbet, $1.67 you'll find about the Canberra Raiders. South Sydney, $2.20. That's pretty big on South Sydney, in my opinion. The Raiders, they are completely unchanged. There are a few changes for South Sydney. Jacob Host returns. He'll be starting in the second row alongside Tallis Duncan, and Colin Matangi remains in the lock position. Michael Cheekham plays at centre this weekend. Richie Kennar is out with a concussion. South Sydney, especially now without Latrell Mitchell and Cameron Murray, defensively, they're looking a little bit more feeble, they're still looking as dynamic, I should say, attacking-wise, but there was just a little bit more staunch, a little starch, I should say, in their defence about 3 weeks ago. But now there's no Murray, there's no Mitchell. It's just fallen by the wayside a little bit over the past couple of weeks, so they don't look quite as convincing. South Sydney's season is on life support. They win, it's obviously still alive. The Raiders, however, they're still in the mix to be either 6th, 7th or 8th come finals. This is a huge game for Canberra. They have the worst for and against of all the teams vying for one of those 3 positions in the top 8. So they need to win. Otherwise, technically, they might be down 1 win outside of the 8. Due to the for and against, it might be 2 wins outside of the 8. So this is huge for the Raiders. I think they need to somehow unlock that old Raiders gritty defense And last weekend they had a great start, but then the Warriors started fighting back and they got lucky with the misconversions there from Chanel Harris-Tavita. So I think Rabbitohs have more points in them, but I don't know about the South Sydney defence. The Raiders, I think defensively they could be better. They can be better than South Sydney, but this is a flip of the coin, and at that value for South Sydney to be 220 and seeing the Raiders home form this season, sorry Raiders fans, I'm going to go South Sydney in this game. I think they'll keep their season alive. I'm barracking for the Raiders, but I'm going to go South Sydney 1-12. Sorry Raiders fans. Howdy everyone, thank you very much for tuning in once again to the A-Side Tips Show on the Warble and Jaw Sports channel. The NRLW season kicks off this weekend, so look for an NRLW A-Side Tips Show edition, and also I interviewed S.A. Banu from the NRLW Cowboys earlier today, so please hunt that down and give that one a crack. Thank you again, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you, take care, adios.